For life to continue, the sun had to be encouraged to halt its southern drive, to use its strength to stop, to turn itself around, and wheel towards the north. In the south, what was important was that the sun stop its retreat, that the sun stand still. In the frozen north, far more imperative than stopping was that the sun then return. This is the origin of the Yule wreath, a solar wheel made of evergreen branches. Evergreen and undying, just like our beloved sun. Welcome to an episode on the Winter Solstice and Yule, exploring the historical inception of the term and contemporary pagan interpretations of it. Let's appreciate the mighty sun together and follow me along in this episode. Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Angela Puca and welcome to my Symposium. I'm a PhD and a religious studies scholar, and this is your online resource for the academic study of paganism, shamanism, magic, esotericism, and all things occult. Today we will talk about the Winter Solstice and Yule, when the connection between the two started, and how contemporary pagans and magic practitioners interpret the Winter Solstice and Yule. The winter solstice is the shortest day of the year, when the sun appears to stand still, before bringing its light back on the earth to a progressively increased extent. The term solstice comes from the Latin sol stasis, referring to the idea of the sun standing still. This astronomic phenomenon happens between the 21st and the 23rd of December in the Northern Hemisphere, or between the 21st and the 23rd of June in the Southern Hemisphere. The sources I found on the Winter Solstice and Yule have a focus on European cultures, where the latter term originates. Hence, the primary geographical reference will be the Northern Hemisphere. According to Tille, the earliest author to mention the calendar use of Yule is the Venerable Bede. In his commentary on the times of the year, De Temporum Ratione, where he describes his Anglian non-Christian contemporaries' method to calculate the passage of time, based on the movements of the moon. Here Bede explains that they call both the months of December and of January by the same name, Giudice or Yule. Bede also writes, their new year begins with the night when we celebrate the birth of the Lord. This very night that is now so holy to us, the night of Christmas, or Christmas Eve, is to them Modernacht, id est matrum noctem, and is celebrated with an all-night vigil kept in honor of the mothers. The Angles saw Yule associated with the month of December, when the south-moving sun slows to a stop, and the new year begins, and with January, as the sun slowly begins moving northward. So Yule was primarily the night of the 24th and the 12 following days. December is called for Yule, and January, with Germanic consistency, is called after Yule. I will leave the original terms on screen because I'm not really sure how to correctly pronounce them. So we have before Yule, after Yule, and 12 days which they surround are simply Yule itself. Ronald Hutton explains that Danish rule over England in the 11th century resulted in the introduction of the colloquial Scandinavian term for Christmas, Yule, which provided an alternative name for it among the English. In the following century, it became widespread in England, while in the 13th century, we find the first recorded use of the term in Scotland, where it will become common in their vernacular by the end of the Middle Ages. We don't know anything certain about the origin of Yule and can only infer from the historical sources that mention the term and the festival. Yule has possibly parent words. In Old Norse it is Jol, in Swedish it is Jul, And in Danish, it is Yule. The derivation of the name has puzzled linguists. It is possibly related to the Gaelic Yule or Anglo Saxon Yule, signifying a wheel, or to the root word which yielded the English expression jolly. It is also uncertain whether it was initially attached to a midwinter festival which preceded the Christian one. The earliest Scandinavian literature does not refer to it, but to an undoubted pagan feast in October, the Winter Nights, which opened the season. Some medieval writers maintained that Yule was as old as this pagan feast. For instance, Snorri Sturluson in the 13th century, who reported a tradition of sacrifice during the winter nights to propitiate an easy winter with a good crop at Yule and a successful fighting season on Summer's Day. Sturluson also reported that Yule had lasted for 3 nights, the first being Midwinter Night and that of the New Year. Also, a Christian ruler of Norway, Hakon the Good, decided to synchronize Yule with the Feast of the Nativity. Another Icelandic historian reported a warrior in pagan times who postponed a single combat until 3 days after Yule, to avoid spoiling the sacredness of the festival. It's key here to highlight that the reliability of these sources is still debated, but as Ronald Hutton highlights, the consensus between Bede and Snorri that the winter solstice was a major feast of the ancient Scandinavian and Norse peoples, and that it opened their year is still a remarkable one. This hypothesis would also be in accordance with a known series of documented complaints made by churchmen and church councils between the 4th and the 11th centuries about the revelry around the New Year. Now, from the historical origins and early developments of the Yule Winter Solstice Association, let's jump to the modern construction of this festival. Contemporary paganism, possibly thanks to its interest in environmentalism and nature-centric spirituality, brought about an exploration of ancient winter festivals and practices. Wicca practitioners developed an alternative festival calendar called the Wheel of the Year that embodies the annual rhythms of practice and celebration, including those of winter. With the Wiccan Wheel of the Year, later adopted by other pagans and magic practitioners, the midwinter festival celebrated on the winter solstice now takes on the name of Yule, a festival dedicated to the rebirth of the sun. Wicca festivals are indeed meant to honor and fully attune with the cycle of life, of human death and rebirth, and the changes evident around them in the natural world. The 8 festivals within the Wheel of the Year, also called Sabbaths, are rites of passage, each performed in connection with the season, as the perennial seasonal changes in nature are perceived as connected with changes in a human life. The consecutive phases of a human lifetime, from birth to death, are incorporated in the symbology of the pagan wheel and therefore celebrated each season. Since it was Wicca that systematized these 8 seasonal festivals in the way contemporary pagans practice them today, the duotheistic component of Wicca, with its emphasis on the polarities embodied by the goddess and the god, shows equally in the early receptions of the Wheel of the Year. Thus, not only each season will represent a seasonal change in one's life, but also in the female-male polarities present in the world. During each season, the goddess and the god will be in a different relation to each other, mirroring the human natural interactions between these polarities. The sun will be, in this context, seen as representing the god for its projective energy, while the moon or the earth are often seen as representing the goddess for their receptive nature. On the winter solstice, many pagans see the goddess or the earth in the role of a mother giving birth to the new sun, or the god. This interestingly echoes the description we gave earlier of Yule as the celebration of mothers, while also being a celebration of the undying sun that brings about the new year, along with a renewed light. Traditions and rituals for this festival are varied and would deserve a video on their own. They are often syncretized with the Christian and secular celebration of Christmas. Pagans tend to employ more of those traditions believed to be pre-Christian, or to give a pagan spin to Christian traditions that are so embedded in the Western culture to have assumed for many secular connotations. The core element here is the celebration of perpetual life, as while individuals are born and die all the time, life always surrounds us. And as dark as it may get outside, the promise of a new light is ready to blossom into a new year with warmer days and brighter months ahead. Unless you are an Italian living in the UK, in that case you're I'm kidding. Besides, you guys are my light and help me keep the light on for the symposium. On that note, this is a crowd-funded project, so if you have the means and can help at all, I would really appreciate it if you consider supporting my work with a one-off PayPal donation by joining memberships or my Patreon community, also called my Inner Symposium. We have lots of academic fun, and I also think that joining my Patreon is the best way to reach out to me and even have one-to-one sessions with me. There's a great community on Discord. We have monthly lectures for the Magus up level patrons. So I would highly recommend you check it out. And it would also be a great way to support this project. And otherwise, I would also very much appreciate it if you'd smash the like button. That is, if you like this video, which I hope you did. Share this video with your friends and let me know in the comment section what are the traditions that you associate with Yule. And do you have any specific association between Yule and Christmas or any other religious traditions? I would be really interested in knowing what are your thoughts on it and your experience and traditions if you wish to share them. Also, subscribe to the channel and enter the symposium. Activate the notification bell so that you will never miss a new upload from me. And as always, stay tuned for all the academic fun. Bye for now.